What's up, guys? This is Kayla Bundy, and you're listening to the Finding Hope podcast. I'm so excited you're tuning in to this incredible community that is after growth, positive change, having actionable steps, and making a difference for our situation, being rooted in the hope that there is more. There's hope for something greater, for change, and we're not just hoping, but we're actually taking steps to get there. So I'm so honored that you are tuning in today and joining this community that's just doing life together and having so much fun being real about every step of the way. In today's episode, I'm going to give you 4 steps to cultivate peace and take care of yourself in the busyness when you don't feel like you have the time or resources. I don't know about you, but I'm so good at staying on top of my routine, my self-care, the things that make me the best version of myself, and being really disciplined when I have structure and I have routine and I have time and I'm not thrown off of my schedule or what I'm used to doing. And it doesn't even have to be that. It could be just you're not even in the same house that you were. You're traveling, you're bouncing around, you might be moving into a new apartment. Just when there's change, it can be really hard to stay on top of what you're used to, or vice versa. Sometimes what you're used to, you don't really make a lot of changes in. And so having a big change and changing your environment can actually be the most beneficial thing for you. So depending on where you're at in that, I know I've been on both sides of that spectrum. And it's so funny because I went from being California, where I was so good at taking care of myself. I knew exactly what to do, figured things out, and I had such a good routine. It was a flexible routine, but it was a routine, and I maintained staying consistent with my goals. And then I came to my hometown, and it's so much harder for me. And I've noticed just me slacking off in ways that I never would normally. And now I'm going to embark on a whole nother change, and I'm excited because I feel like with that momentum, I'm able to actually reintroduce some things that got a little lost in this season of me being back in my hometown. So this is really me speaking from personal experience when I say the things to do to really help you create things that you are able to do when time is limited, when resources are limited, and when you're just not really feeling very motivated, honestly. And it can be really overwhelming to try to take care of yourself when your capacity is already pushed to the max. Step number 1 is embrace a Sabbath. I know this sounds kind of counter productive to, let me try to have momentum and goals and do these things. And then I'm telling you, just rest. But really, it is so important because I know I can go days where I do a little bit here and there, but it's not to my full potential. And when I'm taking quote unquote rest, or I'm scrolling on my phone, or I'm starting my workday later than normal, or I slacked on a workout, when I only do half of something or a little bit of something, and I don't fully have a work day or I don't fully have a rest day, that is one of the biggest things that keeps people so stuck in this lack of motivation and momentum. Because when you don't have a set time for your body to fully just rest and check out, then it feels like even the little rest that you might take at different times throughout the day or throughout the week, it doesn't feel restful, because then you're feeling guilty, or you're thinking about all the things that you should be doing that you're not, or how much more you have left to do because you didn't actually utilize your day to get done what you wanted to get done. And so when you're not doing anything, or you're sitting there watching a show, you're feeling really guilty and you're thinking about all the things you should have done. Versus, honestly, it's so important to just take a rest day, because when you actually dedicate time to rest and you don't let yourself think about anything you need to do, you don't let yourself think about the goals you're not hitting, the ways that you're not proud of yourself, or the ways that you feel lazy. If you take a day to just actually recharge yourself, I promise when you start the next day and you start that next week or whatever that looks like for you, you hit the ground running because you actually had that time to rest, recharge, be restored, and then use that momentum for the next week. And I know myself, and I know when I do actually rest, I get restless. And it's good when I get restless because when I get restless, I want to do things. And when I never give myself time to rest, I kind of operate in this mid zone where I'm not doing bad, but I'm not doing great. And I want you guys to be doing great a lot. And so when you feel like you don't have the time, the resources, all of these things, and taking care of yourself is really hard, actually use a day to recharge and rest and reset. And just watch how that ends up making you feel restless to where you want to do so much more the next day. And that carries throughout the week. The Sabbath isn't just a day, it is a holy day. It's a commandment. It's something God created. And He knew there was such purpose in it then and now. And it is a timeless practice that will always have benefits to reap. Number 2, practice saying no. This one can go a million different directions, but for me, myself, and I need to practice saying no to distractions. Practice saying no to the things that pull me from what I know I want to do. And I notice sometimes I can feel like I'm in this state of being rushed, and no one's rushing me. It's just me. And I end up saying no to the things I want to get done and yes to the things that I also want to do, but I know that it's not the self-care that I need. And I need to practice saying no to some of the things that distract me more and saying yes to the things that actually I'm going to feel so much more proud of myself for accomplishing and completing. And so just get used to saying no in the things that right now it's not easy for you to. And that could be whatever it is. If it's hard for you to say no to sleeping in instead of getting up early and doing a workout, practice saying no to that. If it's hard for you to say no to working out 24/7 and yes to the small quality time you might have with family, then say no to the working out 24/7 and actually spend time with your family. It's person to person, but I want to challenge you to start saying no and practice saying no in the things that aren't already easy for you to say no to, but in the things that it's actually hard for you to say no to. Saying no is a powerful form of self-care because it allows you to set boundaries for yourself, and it also gives you this reward when you follow through with that no, that hey, I was able to set that for myself and I actually was able to live up to my own word in that. And that is really gratifying, and it creates a space where it's able to prioritize what truly matters and what really does need your attention. And try to see no, not in a just dead end roadblock, but try to see no as in a change of direction. Because a no leads to so many other things. A no doesn't just make you stop. A no is actually an opportunity for you to go somewhere else. Number 3, engage in worship. This is one that, again, I kind of feel like all of these sound like, I don't really think that's going to help. But when you really apply them all, I know you guys are going to be amazed at how different you actually feel and the difference you notice. So when I say engage in worship, I really mean not setting aside time. Because again, if you're listening to this, you probably don't have a ton of time to just set aside. There's probably a lot going on. But I want you to engage in creative ways to worship. That can look different from person to person, but when I have really busy days, I love just having worship music on in the background. Or I love going on my walks or doing the things that I already am going to do in my day. Whether that's you driving in the car, whether it's you going on a walk, whether it's you doing a workout. It doesn't matter. But I use that time of what I'm already doing, and I try to worship the Lord the entire way through it. And so if that's a car ride, I will pray in the car. If it's a walk, I'll go on a prayer walk. If it's going on a run or going to the gym, I'll listen to a podcast that is God-centered and uplifting. And when I engage in creative ways to worship the Lord, and I bring it back to giving thanks, and I bring it back to constantly being in this conversation of prayer, it doesn't leave that room for me to get lazy, for me to slack off, for me to get distracted, because those are all things that the enemy does. The Lord doesn't. And when I'm in constant conversation and I'm constantly returning to Him and finding creative ways to actually worship Him in everything I'm doing, then it keeps me centered, and it closes that door for me to get distracted, for me to get set off course, for me to not be as diligent and as focused as I want to be, and not feel as burnt out or just discouraged and depressed. But when God is speaking truth to me, and when I've opened up this vessel for truth to just fill my mind and my body all throughout the day, it is reflecting the spirits of the Lord, and the Spirit and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. We're just getting so filled up, and that pours out of us. And it's hard to pour out, and it's hard to take care of ourselves, to do the things we want to do, and to not feel exhausted when we aren't drawing from the Lord. And I want to emphasize that try to push yourself to have creative ways to worship, because it's different of just, waking up and reading the daily Bible verse and moving on, and then saying a prayer at night that you're probably going to fall asleep saying and going to bed. And not that that's wrong, but there's just so much more of God's blessings and benefit when you're in constant conversation. And you notice a difference when it's not just the, let me have my morning and my night, but let me start my day and end my day with you, but also let me find every way I can to bring it back to you, to worship you, to thank you, to sing to you, to give praises to you. And it's renewing your heart and mind all throughout the day. And it keeps you focused where you want to focus, because that's a big thing for me. I can get so distracted, and I really value the times I'm able to hyper focus, and that strength comes from the Lord. And so constantly calling on Him, it's just building that up. The fourth step is have an accountability partner. There is so much strength in community, and it's been great because when I've been home and I've had my mom or I've had my sister, and we're all able to sort of hold each other accountable, not even in the ways of checking in and being like, did you do this today? Did you stay consistent? But of inviting each other along in that journey with us. And my mom's been so consistent with staying active. And so it was great because when I first got home, she was already in her routine, and it was so much easier for me to just follow along and join her than to be the one on my own trying to create the time and the space and the motivation to do it. But when I was just being asked to tag along, it was so much easier to give my yes. And having people that are chasing not even the same things as you, but similar, or chasing goals and bettering themselves, and also trying to incorporate self-care in their life in a busy schedule, being able to bond over what that looks like and join in is so beneficial. It's so much easier to do things together than alone. And especially for me, I'm a huge extrovert. So if you're extroverted, it's so hard for me to leave people, to be on my own, to do the things that I know I want to do. And it's so much easier to do that when somebody comes with me. And I don't need that, but I know that it is way more enjoyable. And so for me, I really like having somebody to do things with that are aligned with my goals and that remind me I have the time. And when I try to make these excuses, they're there to be like, no, let's just go do it right now. And it sucks sometimes. It's not fun, but when you have others, it's way, way, way easier to learn from them, to adapt their practices into your life, to find more creative ways to do things, to figure out what works for you, and to stay on track with what you know works for you. The last thing, too, I actually want to throw this in there because it just came to me, but praying against procrastination, I think, is huge when it comes to everything we've talked about today. But praying against procrastination, because that is what really, I think, trickles. And then once we procrastinate, it's so hard to actually get back on track. And I want to encourage you guys to really just pray against that. And when you feel the burnout, when you feel the exhaustion, when you feel like you don't have time, when you feel like, oh, I'll just do it later, I'm just going to keep putting it off, pray against it. And as you're praying against it, I want to challenge you to actually take action in it. And I do this. It's so hard for me mentally. I don't know why. It exhausts my brain so much not to procrastinate in the things that I want to procrastinate in so bad. But it is so much more rewarding, and I'm so thankful for the times when I know I want to procrastinate and I tell myself in that moment, oh, I'll respond to this in 5 minutes. I'll get to that later. And I notice myself do that, and I go, actually, I'm just going to do it now. And it's exhausting, but I get it done, and I feel so much lighter at the end of the day when I did not let myself procrastinate. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. I just want to encourage you that in all the things you have set out for yourselves, that you do it to the Lord and you do it for the Lord. And when you shift the perspective of, I need to do this for me, I need to do this for them, I need to do this because this is what's expected of me, and you start shifting it to, I'm doing this to glorify the Lord, it makes it so much more enjoyable and rewarding. I love you guys so much. I hope this episode helps you stay more on track and find easy, simple ways to keep yourself motivated and keep that momentum going to take care of yourself when just the busyness of life takes over. I love you all, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.